minutes. He's the Utah director for the FHWA and always joins us here. We appreciate his presence, always. Well, thank you for that. I think at this point in time we have a little treat. Carlos, you want to introduce this, and then we'll have our ads, I guess.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just note that Elizabeth Boyd from our Legislative and Policy Group just joined us as well. What I wanted to show you, Mr. Chairman, are two ads that one is running now, and if you're an aficionado of the Olympics, you may have seen it. And what happens is when we work with the different networks every year, and we get public service time, and we always work on our Zero Fatalities campaign, and so we try to provide information on the 5 deadly behaviors that cause fatalities and serious injuries on Utah's roads. And so our communications division, under the direction of Joe Walker, put together several ads, one that is running this week and one that you will have a sneak preview that will start running the second week of the Olympics. So I thought the commission and the audience may like to see those right now, and thank you for allowing us to do that. Joe?
Yes, please. Probably right away.
Making noise.
Aaron?
Start.
Equally dangerous. Everyone knows drinking and driving is stupid. But what you might not know is that texting and driving is equally dangerous. In fact, it's just as deadly as driving at twice the legal alcohol limit. When you're behind the wheel, don't text and drive.
You may have been seen this one, and we cannot overemphasize the concerns we have with distracted driving taking place. So that's Joe, you're the wrong
Look where you're going. Use strategic lane positioning to help you see and avoid.
Holy shnikes! What are you doing, Melissa? Guys, let go!
What in the hell's that?
What are you doing? What? Ripple, I said!
You sugar honey iced tea.
You might be able to drive her, but you need to watch for those who aren't.
You can't.
Before you go on green, wait to make sure there aren't any bleepers running a red light.
So that'll probably start tomorrow or today? Today. So
How many languages were they spoken?
So that's our bleeping ad. Joe?
I should also mention it's not just the communications group, it's actually under the direction of Robert Miles and the safety group there.
You're to blame for that.
I want to blame Robert.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly welcome. Thank you for sharing those ads with us. We certainly can't emphasize the importance that needs to be placed on safety and on the road. So that's a good reminder to everybody. What we want to do now is to have a local area presentation from Region 3, and Terry will introduce that. And when we're completed with this presentation, we will then have public comments, and we will start with those of our elected officials who wish to address the commission, and then we'll open it up, open the floor to others. Terry?
I just want to thank the commissioners for joining us on the tour yesterday. Our big focus yesterday was on rural corridors and the importance of funding for those. We talked about 3 corridors. We talked about US 40, US 6, and US 189 so that you could get a feel for all of our needs in Region 3. But we want to transition you today to talking more about just things in the basin. So Larry's going to give you a little presentation just on what's going on in the basin, and we want to represent for the Duchesne and Uinta County Commissioners the needs that we have in the basin and make sure that they know we're paying attention to what their needs are. So with that...
They will have rebuttal rights after.
They have rebuttal rights, yes. So just want to introduce Larry Montoya. He is our basin project manager, so he takes care of all of our projects in the basin. So he spends a lot of time out here and knows the area well now. So Larry, go ahead.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you, Terry. At UDOT, I work as a project manager, and I think I have the best job in UDOT. I get to work up here with the great people of the basin, as well as work on some really interesting projects. So I'd like to take a few minutes this morning just to give you provide you with an update regarding past, current, and future projects for the basin. This first slide here illustrates past projects that were constructed during the past 5 years. As you can see, we're focusing here on US 40. There's been a lot of work between Heber City and the Colorado state line. The colored indications there indicate the date or the year that those projects were constructed. 2 projects that we've mentioned briefly here are that were completed were, let's see, 208, SR 208 to Duchesne. That was constructed last year. That was a roto-mill overlay project, pavement preservation, and another one that was, let's see, what else have we got here? Oh, the other one I wanted to mention, I'm sorry, was the Twist project, which was located just west of Vernal. That section was a passing lane project that was constructed, and we've probably driven through those before. Here's a breakdown of the past projects, indicating the type of projects that were constructed. So we've got 61% were pavement preservation type projects, 6% were safety improvement projects, roadway widening 31%, and then other, which was bridge preservation and other types of projects. So that's sort of the value breakdown of those projects completed during the past 5 years.
Could I interrupt you just for a minute? If you look at that last slide, every project we do is a safety project and has safety elements incorporated into it. The 6% represents just that category of safety funds.
Yes, of course. I'm glad you clarified that, Carlos, because the 6% there had to do with specifically traffic signal projects. But like I mentioned, that project that was constructed west of Duchesne last year, the pavement preservation project, that, we always address safety concerns. As you drove through that on the tour yesterday, you probably noticed a new guardrail in location, some safety right-of-way fencing, keep the cattle off the roadway. Those were things that were looked at. And we always look at those when we're doing preservation projects. It's a big part of what we're doing. Current projects on US 40, there's a culvert replacement job in Daniels Canyon as you're coming up the canyon there. We've got a continuation of the pavement preservation work from from the Wasatch County line over to SR 208, which ties into that project that was completed last year. Again, that's the one I just mentioned with the guardrail and other safety improvements. We have a pedestrian upgrade, an enhanced crosswalk that's being constructed here in Duchesne to help get the students across 40.
That's the one right by the high school, just right.
Yes.
Right.
The Burger King.
Yes, that was the point that they're heading. And they would cross all over the place. So we're working with the school district on that to educate the students and ensure that they use that properly for their own safety. Let's see, we've got an intersection improvement project that's just starting in Roosevelt. That's at US 40 and 2000 West. That'll be an auxiliary lane between 2000 West and Pole Line Road. We've got some CCTV camera work at different traffic signals along 40, and then some additional, the pavement rehabilitation project number 6. That was just completed east of Jensen. That was a 10-mile stretch cold-in-place recycle project, and that was just recently completed. Another one that we did between Heber and Vernal was the passing lane notification sign project, where we upgraded all of the passing lane signs between, from Heber all the way into Vernal. The importance of just making sure that the motorists know that they are approaching other passing lane opportunities, make better use of those, and help them to make good decisions as they're planning to pass or overtake slower vehicles. So here's a breakdown of the current projects for this year. Again, showing the different types of projects there. Future projects on US 40, we're looking at a number of projects in Daniels Canyon to improve the roadway section through the canyon. We've got very narrow shoulders as you're driving up the canyon. As you've probably experienced, we have a lot of wheel runoff on large vehicles as they round corners and things like that. So the plan there is to provide an adequate shoulder. We'll be providing 4-foot wide shoulders going up the canyon there for that project, and making sure that we've got adequate passing lane width. Let's see, we've got another project at the summit heading westbound, which is an extension of the existing passing lane project coming off the summit heading westbound back towards Heber. We've got additional passing lanes west of Strawberry in a few years, 2019, and then another passing lane project in Gusher, which will address a big gap in our distance between passing lanes. So, we're starting to get to the point where we want to have frequent intervals between the passing lanes to provide those opportunities. And so we're addressing the difficult locations now. All the easy ones are done.
Terry Hill talked about the shoulders, the difference between 8 feet and 10 feet.
Yes. A few years ago, we completed a US 40 Uinta basin study, and a vision was determined. It came out of that study. We developed a vision for US 40, which included 10-foot wide shoulders, where we can provide them, and narrower shoulders in other sections. But between Duchesne and Vernal, we wanted to go with 10-foot wide shoulders to provide the width in case a large truck breaks down. It allows adequate width for them to be completely out of the travel lane. And so that was one piece. And I'll show you a view of what that cross-section looks like here in just a moment. So here's a breakdown of the future projects on 40. Again, the different types of projects. Here's that cross-section. So the vision there, we came up with 3 different sections for that in that study, or 2 different sections. A 3-lane section, which we refer to sometimes as a 2+1 section, where we have a passing lane introduced, and then maintain the single lane in the other direction. And then for certain sections, we've identified the ideal would be a 5-lane section there, and that's what we're planning between Duchesne and Vernal. We've got when we get into some other projects here on 40, one being the Mighton Bench project. I'll give you a little bit more information on how we're applying that. On other routes in the basin, here's a list of some current projects that are underway. We've got a number of chip seal projects on US 191 north of Vernal. Those are being handled right now. We've got a widening project on SR 149 from Jensen going into Dinosaur National Monument. I'm sorry, that one is currently in design right now. It'll be constructed in 2018. We've got the Glen Bench Road Pavement Preservation Project. That's an overlay project south of Naples, heading southeast on SR 45. And then the roadway collapse project, where we're constructing a bridge out there over the mining trench. And I'll talk briefly about that in just a moment. But one thing I wanted to mention, going back to the passing lanes, is this study is a great tool that we utilize constantly. As we're working on these projects, it helps us to identify the locations, ideal locations for the passing lanes. And one question that Terry is always asking us, that we ask ourselves now, it's so ingrained, is this the best place to utilize the funding? Are we utilizing the funding efficiently and in a manner that will maximize the return on the investment put into the highway? And so, as we develop our scope and as we proceed through the project design process, we're always asking ourselves, when we make a decision, are we doing the right thing with this funding? And we're utilizing the study for information. We're utilizing other resources we have within UDOT, crash data. Traffic and Safety has developed a tool that we tried using on US 40, predicted, I believe it's a predicted crash model type tool, which recommends certain improvements that will help reduce crashes and improve safety along the corridor. And it validated a lot of the things we're doing here with the passing lanes, providing medians, turn lanes, center turn lanes in some locations, so vehicles can get out of the way to make their movements and not be in a passing lane when they're doing that. And that's one thing we're doing here on this US 40 Might and Bench project. As you can see in the picture there, it's a 2+1 type section, but as you get up on top of the bench, there's a lot of accesses along there. People are, for the oil industry or homes or whatever, businesses, there's a lot of traffic turning off and onto 40. And so this is one of the sections that was identified as a 5-lane section. We're going to provide a center turn lane for that, which will help immensely, plus provide the wider shoulders here. And one other thing, the darker section there on the left is the project limits. So it's a 6-mile section just north of Mighton to Pole Line Road in Roosevelt, where we will tie into the existing 5-lane section that runs from there through Roosevelt over to Ballard by Union High School. So by this time, or by the end of next year, we'll have a 10-mile stretch here of 5-lane section. The other project I wanted to mention briefly was SR 45. This time last year, we identified a problem with some erosion occurring underneath the roadway at SR 45 in Bonanza. And with these pictures, you can see where it's at today. These were just taken a few weeks ago. The erosion is coming into the roadway now. So at that time, last year, we jumped on this. We pulled together all the experts, and we developed, we reviewed and evaluated the conditions there, identified what was going on, went through some risk analysis, and looked at a bunch of options. What's the best way to reopen this roadway, reestablish access? We looked at improving the bypass road, which is an 8-mile detour. We looked at realigning the road to a different location and crossing the trench at a different place. And it was determined that a bridge would be the best, most economical and efficient way to use the funds to reestablish access on this roadway. So, just to show you briefly the situation we were faced with, the Gilsonite was mined in the 70s, and typically the mining company would leave 50 feet of that pillar underneath the surface of the roadway, and they would mine as deep as 700 feet now. So there's 700 feet of void under this. In this particular case, we identified a problem with drainage accelerating the erosion underneath the roadway, and so this is what was left, was just 6 or 7 feet of soil material under that roadway, and that's what's collapsing now. This is a view looking across the trench where the bridge girders will be crossing just on one side. So the foundations will be set back, so they're not impacted by any future erosion. We're addressing the drainage concern there, removing that from the picture, so that should greatly reduce the rate of erosion here. And so that bridge the crossing will maintain the existing alignment across that trench and provide a bridge there. And then this view here just illustrates the bridge itself, 167-foot span. It crosses this mining trench, which is miles long. It's about 25 feet wide at this point, a little bit wider underneath the crossing. So anyway, with the efforts of the design team, everyone involved, we were able to get the design advertised by June. The contractor has started work out there. He plans to start complete his excavation in about a week and a half, and moving ahead. The plan is to reopen the bridge by mid-December, reopen the road, and reestablish everything, access out there. So we're right on track with that project. And that concludes my update for you.
Any questions for Larry? Comments?
So what was the cost of that bridge, Larry?
The cost of the bridge is $1.8 million. The total project is just under $3 million.
Other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that presentation. Thank you. We'll now open the meeting to public comments. Those specifically, we invite the elected officials. Ron, you're already up here, so if you want to address us, please do so.
And I will try to duplicate what Terry's already given you. Welcome to the basin, and thank you for the attention that you've given us. I think that on your bus tour yesterday, you probably saw, what Highway 40 means to the basin. And then coming back over 191, that's the only 2 routes to get into the basin. We do have 35, which goes over Wolf Creek, which is seasonal. And Wasatch Front refineries rely on that route to stay open and maintained. There are quite a few safety issues on it. 191 becomes really a safety factor when you start looking at when we go back into high production out here right now. Maybe just to let you know that at the peak of our production, we were about 93,000 barrels of oil, and 2/3 of that was headed to Salt Lake. The other third was headed to Wellington and Price area to put that on the rail. That has all now dropped off. Very little oil goes over there at the point. Right now we're shipping between 60 and 62,000 barrels a day. So production has been reduced because of the price, but there are plans that as the price increases, we'll go back to that production. And so for now, the trucks that you experienced yesterday, some of you commented that there was a lot of them on the road. That is minor to what we had before. We do want to express a concern that the Commission continues to allocate money to rural Utah, especially the basin, so that we can keep this open and safe. As I traveled home last night, there's not a passing lane between Duchesne and Mine. And there are some areas in which you might be able to chance passing, but with the wildlife and that, it's just not a safe condition. 191's the same way. It's 54 miles, there's not one passing lane on it. We would encourage the Commission and the staff to look at that and to do what you can to alleviate and put some band-aids in there to relieve those that are less patient on the roads. That there are opportunities. what we've done in the past, and by putting up the passing lane signs, that's helped, that people can be patient because they know that it is coming up. But where there is nothing, there are a lot of chances being taken. So thank you again for coming out here and touring our region. We recognize that Uena County, we've done a lot of projects over there, and the traffic flow into Vernal is much better now than it has in the past, and we just ask that we look at what we need on this side of our county to assist us in that. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Mark Raymond, once again, thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming out into our area of the state. Sometimes we feel like we don't get a lot of attention out here, but in the recent past, UDOT has been extremely helpful to our area. Region 3 has been coming out frequently and visiting with us and reviewing and discussing our projects. The project on Highway 40 in the twists, probably one of the single greatest improvements in a long time. And for those of you who drive that road very often, know that that has been very beneficial for us, and we thank you for that. Most of our transportation needs are between here and Salt Lake, and so we fully support Duchesne County and the improvements that are being made over there. The 2040 plan that Mr. Montoya referred to, we are extremely supportive of that, and that by year 2040 there will be 2 lanes, both directions, between here and Duchesne, or between Duchesne and Vernal. We can't emphasize enough the importance of that. Commissioner Winterton referred to the price of oil and gas. It has been rebounding, but very slowly, and we recognize that, we acknowledge that. Price of a barrel of oil this morning was $43, but remember, a year ago it was 26. And so it is coming back. The value has not returned very quickly, but it is gradually coming back. Price of gas for an MCF is at, I'm having a senior moment. Yeah, it's also coming back. Seems like it's around $2.60 an MCF, just off the top of my head. But once again, when you look at what it was a year ago, there's significant increases in gas, and so transportation is on the rise again, and you know, the health and safety and welfare of the people who live, work, and play out here is a very high priority to us, and so we appreciate the efforts that you're making. I just might mention on the bridge that was talked about, American Gilsonite unfortunately sits just on the other side of that bridge, and it's huge for them. It's an 8-mile detour instead of just going straight through on that bridge, and so we are extremely pleased to see work commence on that and are very supportive of that as well. So we thank you, we appreciate your efforts, and continue to do so. Thank you. Questions?
Any questions for Commissioner Raymond?
I've got one question for each one of you. I want to know the population of Uena and Duchesne counties now, permanent residency.
We don't know exactly. We're fairly confident that the population a couple of years ago was 35,000 people in Uena County.
22,000 in Duchesne County.
So we're looking at almost 60,000, but there has been some considerable movement of people outside of our counties. Our unemployment today is still around 10%, but it would be much higher than that were it not for the number of people that have moved away and the mass migration of jobs to other areas. So we are still under considerable economic stress out here.
Thank you.
Any others? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Please, Representative King. We have
I'd like
another
to add that
representative
Representative
as
Chan
well.
has joined us, yes.
Yes, so you'll have an opportunity. We welcome you as well.
It's good to be with you this morning. Most of you I know very well, and for many, many years. I'm very comfortable with the Transportation Commission. What will probably be a little bit different is not talking about Highway 6 to you today. You all know where I stand on that. But I do want to thank you especially for the efforts that you make to get around the state. More than any other commission that we have, you guys take the time to make that travel and to see things for yourselves, and it's very much appreciated. The thing you find that is the difference between your urban folks and the folks out here in the rural areas was just expressed by the commissioner, and that is when you fix something on I-15, people stop being mad. When you fix something in the rural area, they are very grateful, and that's a very different attitude. I would just like to echo what the commissioners both said. Highway 40 obviously is the most important corridor. Our rural corridors are important both for commerce and for transportation of people. And Highway 40 certainly has more people on it, but because we've covered that quite a bit, I'll talk a little bit about 191, which is now my favorite road. Came over this morning, 2 little projects that almost made me late that we're grateful for. Unlike most people, I cheer every time I see an orange cone. I think that's progress. But the real challenge of 191 was illustrated. Let's see, 2 years ago I came over one time and I think I passed 17 oil tankers. And in 191, as was mentioned, there are no passing lanes. The only thing that's more important than those passing lanes would be, according to one of my constituents, a place to stop and go to the bathroom. Just thought I'd mention that again. But it is really important, and the shoulders are so narrow on that entire place that the margin for error for the traveling public is just almost non-existent. But the big thing is when you have that much traffic, you can imagine in the wintertime, and we do have winter in the Uinta Basin, one jackknife semi would completely shut down any commerce between Duchesne County and Carbon County. And it'll shut it down both ways, and it'll shut it down for a long time. And when the oil industry comes back, which it will, that is going to be a tremendous challenge. And folks in Region 3, when they do their snow removal, know what it means to have a jackknife semi. We do a wonderful job. I have to give my kudos to Region 4 also, who have taken care of me for many years, and I'm grateful for them. But the department has done wonderful things, and we want to thank the Commission for their involvement in that. It is more important to us out here. I always feel safer when I'm stuck in a traffic jam on I-15 than when I'm passing 4 deer and 9 big black cows on 191, and everything is safety related out here. The widenings are safety related, the rehabs are safety related, everything is. But we really do appreciate what you have, and just continue to guide your attention to those difficult spots. And again, just good to be with you today.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments for the representative? Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Please. Thank you for being here today.
Well, this is Representative Chu, for those of you that don't know who I am. I didn't realize that I would have an opportunity to address you, but I'd like to, first of all, compliment Larry and Carlos on the efforts made on Highway 149, which goes up to the Dinosaur National Monument, and working with the landowners along there, and it seems like we've got all the issues resolved, and so that can proceed. And I'd like to draw your attention a little bit. Representative King mentioned, about the black cows on the roads and stuff. Our area, like the Glen Bench Road, or from the Glen Bench Road back to Highway 45, or on Highway 45 back to Vernal, there's a lot of livestock grazing in those areas, and safety issues if we get an increase in oil activity again. We have a significant amount of livestock and vehicle collisions, so fencing would help with safety issues there for sure. I'd also like to just throw out an idea. There's, you know, the technology that the oil industry has that's caught a lot of national attention, you might say, fracking. It's a very useful tool, and not always people realize. I understand that a certain amount of when the twists were widened out here just the last couple of years, that a what do you call it, a type of fracking was used rather than explosives. And I think that's very interesting, because just this morning coming over, I heard on the radio that there is a big boulder in Zions National Park, and you know, in those canyons, explosives could be. Anyway, I think hydraulic cracking of that stuff could be, and so we've got maybe some opportunities that I think we ought to look at a little bit. And I think you know, it's interesting how we get a hot word, and it can either be good or bad. But I think there's some opportunities that ought to be looked at. And so anyway, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate what you guys do and the efforts that are made. And anyway, in my district, people are very supportive of UDOT, but they also would like to see more things done, you might say. And if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
The question? Well, I have just a personal question. Why are you guys always referring to Black Angus rather than Hereford?
You know, it's because you can see that white face in the night a little easier than you can the dark cow.
It's also about 2 cents a pound.
Representative, we could provide some UDOT orange vests maybe for those black cows.
No, that's interesting.
Really nice.
That's interesting, Carlos, because one of my children, when they were in high school, done a little project, and they got one of the local parts, or went to purchase some reflective tape, and they made some little harnesses and put on the cows. And it's pretty amazing. You guys have all seen a bicycle rider, and you can see the pedals going up and down at night when they've got the reflective tape on them. The cows are very obvious. It was difficult because we didn't have the facilities to put them on the cows, and we tried to put some on the and then haul them, and of course they got rubbed off in the trailers, and so, you know, my daughter, she was in FFA and tried to do that as an FFA project, and we tried to come up with some kind of paint that was more of a reflective type paint to make them easier to see at night. We've had quite a few different ideas, but you know, if we just only knew which cows were the ones that were going to hang out on the highways, it would make that much easier too. Well, thanks again, you guys.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate the comments from our elected officials and for the service they render to the state and the counties they represent, so thank you very much for that. We'll now open the meeting to other public comments. If there's anybody else that would like to address the commission at this time, we invite you to step forward. As you do so, introduce yourselves to the commission. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission at this time? If not, then we'll move forward with our agenda, and we'll ask Ivan Marrero to give us a report from the FHWA. And Ivan, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for joining us yesterday and today as well.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner. Yeah, after that talk, I'm starting to imagine glow-in-the-dark cows running around it. Or even them wearing little spandex shorts. Some of us look better with the shorts than that. For today, I have a couple of items for the information for the Commission this morning. First of all, I want to thank Terry and and Region 3 staff with a wonderful tour. It really, I learned a lot about the transportation needs of the area and also how critical they are to the economic of the area, to the economic of the area. So great tour. I also want to thank Irvin and his wife for a wonderful dinner last night. That was really good. I never had scones before, so it was good. I'll have to see if I can get my wife to cook some of the stuff for me. As far as the items, you know, one of the things is the Sharp 2 program. They announced about a month ago they were selecting of 42 different organizations that were going to be receiving funding and technical assistance, and Utah was selected for three topics. There were for the utility bundle, the reliability data and analysis tools, and also the reliability in simulation and planning models. So basically what's going to happen is there will be some funding and some technical assistance provided to Utah and other DOTs to get them to try those different initiatives, and we can all learn from that and hopefully get them to where they become standard practice. The other item is on June 27th, Federal Highways came up with a notice of proposed rulemaking for the Metropolitan Planning Organization Coordination and Planning area. So basically, what that does, it calls for greater coordination between the different planning organizations, and also asks that they start prioritizing projects. Now, that may sound very familiar to you here. If you guys are familiar with the Unified Transportation Plan, that's exactly what we do here in Utah. So you'll probably recognize, there's a trend where I come up announcing something that Federal Highways is promoting and follow up by, well, you're doing that already here in Utah. So it just shows how innovative you are here in Utah, and the good business practice that you have in the state that allows you to already be one step ahead of everybody when it comes to these things. So, but that proposed rulemaking was published on June 27th, and the comments are due by August 26th. Let me see. On July 29th, Secretary Fox announced the recipients of the Tiger Grant projects, or Tiger Grants. This is the 8th round of Tiger, and there were $500 million awarded to different recipients. There were actually 40 grants awarded this year. And for Utah, one grant was awarded to UTA in the amount of $20 million. And I think Brent brought it up in the tour yesterday. It's for their first and last mile connections initiative. So basically they're going to improve connectivity and access to the various UTA facilities and systems. Let's see. Another one I have for you today is the Everyday Counts for regional summits. Federal Highways every 2 years works with AASHTO and the different transportation agencies to select initiatives to promote to the different agencies. So this year we're going to have a summit in Sacramento on December 1st and 2nd, and where we'll come together the different transportation agencies from the West Coast, from the West, and we'll get together and learn about the different initiatives and decide which are the ones that we want to take on. So looking at the list of 11 and talking to Randy, it looks like out of the 11, Utah's already doing 8 of those already, or in the process of starting to implement. So again, you're already one step ahead of everybody else, where out of the 11 that we are promoting as good practice, you already here in Utah are doing about 8 of those. We'll work with putting a group together and get them out there to Sacramento for those 2 days, and we'll come back with a decision on which one out of the rest we want to continue in the state, or which new ones we want to take on. And finally, on the financial side, and I think maybe Bill touched on it a little bit, we received the list of repurposed earmarks from UDOT in the amount of $3.6 million. Those are the ones where money that was sitting there from earmarks, and now we're going to use it. You know, money that's been sitting around for years. Now we're going to take that money and put it to projects that need it. So that request came in. It was submitted to headquarters, and the other one was on July 12th. We received your list of August redistribution projects, and I think we have about $110 million of funds where you are saying if you give us this amount of money, we have the projects ready to go to award and put to construction. So we have not heard yet about any of these two, but the Argos redistribution, I would imagine within the next couple of weeks we'll hear something on that. Okay. So that's what I have for you today. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Ivan?
Thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Let's move forward now in our agenda. Randy, I believe you're next with our scoreboard. Randy, and then I guess Robert, you'll follow Randy. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, well, pleasure to be here today. Talk a little bit about our construction activity that's happened since our last commission meeting, which has been nearly 2 months ago. We've advertised about $65 million worth of projects. You can see from our project list, a total of 20 projects. The majority of those projects will be built will still be built this summer. We've got one big project on the top that was built or was advertised in Region 1 for a total of $26 million. And so Chris is here if anybody has any questions about that. That was a large job on SR 37. The rest of them are smaller preservation or trail type projects. And so we've got still a lot going on in our construction activity. As far as our graphs, and one thing I kind of been struggling a little bit. We show you the same graphs every time, and it's usually a pretty positive message. And so I wish Jason was here, because even though we don't have a lot of complex graphs, we keep positive. And we've got a lot going on. We've got 150 projects that are currently under construction right now. Our change order numbers are really low. They're at 6.8%. With those 150 projects, so we're really happy about that. That means our designs are pretty good, and we're eliminating a lot of risks. If you look at the project on the graph on the top right, you see that we've got about $368 million of current projects that are still, that's the money in the bank that still needs to be paid out to our contractors, with a total of a little over $1 billion in our total program. And of construction projects, and of course that amount of money stretches over many years. It's not just a single year. That's multiple years of active projects that are in. Because construction projects oftentimes go fast, but there's quite a few of them, especially the large ones, that go over a long period of time. So that's why that number is so large. That's not our annual budget by any means. That's just the active projects that have stretched over a period of time.
Well, and Randy, when we're off the road, there's still a lot of work that takes place to financially close these projects that the public doesn't see.
Right. Sure. So. Yeah, so a lot, especially with utilities, right away, things like that are out there that take a long time to close. So sometimes I think our last right-of-way project took almost 10 years. We had an issue that lasted over 10 years to solve, so that money has to be left in the bank. We're spending right now about $2.5 million a day per calendar day in construction. It's pretty typical based on we're in the middle of summer. And that number goes way down, obviously, when we get to the fall months. Our schedules, as you can see from that graph that's on the middle right side, schedules are incredibly good this year, and I think part of that's because of the weather. We have not had any rain or anything that have hindered any of our construction activities. Got off to a kind of a slow start in the spring because of the wet winter or wet weather, but now we're really have caught up and there's no delays. Any questions?
Questions for Randy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, yes. When do we literally is it October that we quit the paving and most of that?
Yeah, it's usually well, by specification, it's weather related, and temperature related. So we'll give some leniency if we get a warm fall. But once it gets cold, we're pretty much done.
So out here in the basin, what's usually like the stop date? October 15th?
Usually.
Right. Is it still that, if if we're past that time when we get warm weather, it has to be 50 degrees and
50
rising.
degrees and rising
still.
for the day.
And rising?
Yes.
Okay.
And if not, we can't get compaction because the mix just cools down.
This
too
is the
fast.
asphalt.
Yeah. I know Randy loves concrete, but.
I'm a Region 2 guy, you know, a lot of my career, so.
What are the temperatures for concrete? Are they a little lower than that?
Concrete's lower than that just because we can't have it freeze.
Yeah.
And we will heat it or we'll put blankets over the concrete. But when you talk about roadway paving, that's pretty much impossible. We can build bridges in the wintertime, and we do, and heat that concrete. That's a practice that we do a lot now just because we want to get jobs done quicker.
Thank you for the refresh.
Thank you.
Robert?
We'll use the metric as part of our conversation today. For the month of January or July, we had 26 fatal crashes resulting in 27 fatalities. Right.
Is that why Jason didn't come today?
No, Jason's never afraid to take on a challenge, but I think he had a good offer from a fishing site somewhere. So, I wanted to look over these really quickly online, kind of get an idea of where things are happening at. So this is what we look like fatal year to date, 152 fatal crashes, resulting in 166 fatalities, according to our sheet here. If we look at July, this is what our distribution looks like. I apologize, we're a little crowded on this screen, but trying to make things work for us. One thing I wanted to bring up this month is I want to focus again on seatbelts. Our messages on the VMS boards today are touting or encouraging people to wear their seatbelts by pointing out that 59% of these fatalities that we've seen this year have involved somebody not correctly buckled. So only 41% of our fatalities are actually buckled correctly in their seats. It's still an overriding factor in survivability of a fatal crash. In my opinion, in my mind, it's incredibly important. We got the results back on our seatbelt survey in conjunction with the Highway Safety Office. We're at 87.9% of drivers out there are using their seatbelt. So that means roughly 60% of those fatalities are coming out of 11% of our population. It's a crazy statistical figure in my mind. I would encourage anyone out there to please buckle up. Please continue to advise or convince your loved ones to buckle up.
I know in Salt Lake City, there's concerned people and physicians about the speed again. And, you know, we cited a lot of the statistics about it's mostly not buckling up and distracted driving. Maybe it would be good to remind the public that it isn't the fact that we raised the speed limit. There's been op-eds and everything else, and it's hard because it's hard in my perception too that if you're going faster, it's fatal, but most of it is distracted and not buckling up.
I think those 5 behaviors that Carlos mentioned earlier play into everything that we do on the roadway. And if you're speeding, you're distracted, that's an incredibly dangerous mix. You're absolutely correct. We work with the Highway Patrol, we work with law enforcement to take a look at where we're at with our compliance with speed limits. And even where we've raised them, the actual speed that people are traveling really has not increased. You'll get maybe 1% faster is all.
I agree, and I've seen that. I think sometimes it might be good to remind the traveling public of that, though, because perception is very hard to change.
Right.
And maybe I won't even go there about more laws about distracted driving.
We would encourage everyone to obey the laws that we have on the books when it comes to distracted driving.
So far, yeah.
Yes. Is there any other questions, Commissioners?
No. No, thank you.
Any other questions for Robert? Comments? Thank you for the report.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I believe we have a number of administrative rules that we need to review. Elizabeth, you've got a couple of them, and then Randy and Robert each have one. So Elizabeth, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I've got two rules. Do you want me to go in the order that's on the agenda, or do you want me to get both of mine done?
Well, you might as well do both of yours
All
while
right.
you're up here.
Good. Well, we've got some exciting things to talk about. So in the 2016 general session, Representative Owens helped us out with HB 448. So this was a great success of eliminating some unnecessary bureaucratic layers. Previously, Salt Lake International Airport would send us $10 every year to certify to license their airport. We would go and do an inspection, and so this rule dealt specifically with these safety criteria involved with licensing airports. The reason that we took a look at this is, first of all, you can see that there's no need for Salt Lake Airport to be sending us $10 every year, but also it was redundant. So FAA does inspections every year. They're called 139 inspections, and they do those for the 8 airports that have commercial flights that are regularly scheduled, plus Logan Airport. So that's 9 of them. And then as part of our regular inventory condition surveys, every 3 years we go to the remaining 37 airports and do our own 5010 federal review of their safety criteria. So the rule that we are proposing eliminating, we would just amend it out of existence. Like I said, deals exclusively with the safety criteria involved with licensing airports. Since we no longer license airports as a result of 448, and since we are already looking at safety criteria in other areas, we feel that this is totally appropriate to eliminate as further elimination of more bureaucracy. So we just wanted to bring this to your attention. It's for your information only, but we haven't done anything on it, so we wanted to let you comment on this or ask any questions if you have any before we do that.
Where'd the $10 go?
To partially cover the administrative costs of going and looking at the safety criteria. So as you can imagine, it not nearly covered what we were doing to take a look at the safety criteria.
Yeah, it's the aeronautics. If we recall yesterday, we talked about the 4 different funds that
Right.
UDOT administers.
So
It went to the
what is it?
aeronautics restricted fund.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was $460.
I'll do it for cash.
Commissioners, are there any questions on that one?
Sorry.
Any questions on this particular rule?
Okay, so the other one, it shows as item 4 under the administrative rules, but it's a B and C rule. So we have our rules come up for review when they're going to expire every 5 years, and Linda and Carlos have made the effort to take a look at those rules when they're about to expire and to see if there's anything that we can do to clean them up, to streamline them, or to improve them, as long as we're going through the process of applying to have them be renewed. So for this particular rule, in code, it is specifically allowed that Class B and Class C funds can be spent on Class A roads, and there's nothing specifically prohibiting B money to be spent on C roads or C money to be spent on B roads, but it also isn't explicitly stated that that's all right. So as part of reviewing this, there was a county that wanted to do that. They wanted to spend some B money on C roads, if I remember correctly. And so in response to that, we just thought that we would put some language in this rule. So it's subsection 4, I believe you guys have a copy of it, but it's a newly added subsection 4, and it just says that there's nothing specifically prohibiting, there's nothing in this rule that would disallow them from spending money, B money on C roads, C money on B roads, as part of a cooperative agreement between the county and the city. So we're just taking something that already happens. It's pretty rare, and it would only be done through a cooperative agreement, but it's something that's appropriate for them to be able to work out, and so we're just making it clear that they are allowed to do that through this rule.
We had a county request that we do this.
And the league, UAC, they're aware of this. They've been involved with this, so this was something that they asked for, and it's an easy thing for us to help with. Any questions?
Any questions or comments on this rule?
I think it's good to make it clear.
All right, and again, we haven't done anything with this yet, but just wanted to let you know before we do.
So
Thank you.
It'll now start through the administrative rule process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Randy?
I want to report today on the Senate Bill 177, which is a bill that UDOT requested, and it was adopted by the legislature in 2016. So recently, this is all about noise permitting, which is what we actually listed that in our fact sheet. But the credit really goes here to Linda Carlson Shane, who worked really closely with Salt Lake County, the League of Cities and Towns, and the Association of Counties to get this through. This has been a challenge for us in certain locations in our state for a long time, and we needed to look at this. It really enables us to do nighttime work where appropriate, and I think that's important. We need to be the ones that are responsible. We need to make sure that we do it in appropriate areas. But the rule that the bill requires two issues, which are identified in the fact sheet. I'm going to talk about those in a little bit of detail. But first I want to go over the reason we wanted the bill was we really need to, in order for us to meet our mission to strengthen Utah's economy and provide a quality of life for all of our residents, we need to have different tools in our chest. We definitely recognize how disruptive construction is to the traveling public, to people in neighborhoods and businesses. One of the things in UDOT, we pride ourselves with a lot of innovation in order to try to improve those things to provide quality of life and improve our economy. Those things show themselves in bridge moves, alternate project delivery methods, innovative traffic management, and the work that we do in our public relations office. But that being said, nighttime construction is another tool that we should be using and probably could be using more to eliminate some of the congestion that happens. We definitely want to strive to reduce impacts to businesses, and daytime construction seems to impact those the most. But the one thing that we've got to remember is we have to really be sensitive to the local governments because they have a responsibility to protect their residents against the noise. And up until now, that noise has been the primary factor that would allow us to either build something or not build something. And this bill now allows us to take more of a holistic approach and look at all the different factors that could be involved in construction and the benefits. And so maybe noise, well, we believe that noise is just one factor of things that should be looked at. Residential impacts, economic impacts, inconvenience to the public is a big deal. Air pollution, impacts to schedules. So we've done a lot of work since this bill passed to put together workflows and guides and analysis forms that our people are going to use in the permitting process. But the bottom line is that we want to look at everything involved in noise. So we're required in this rule to do two things. To develop a process for local governments to appeal decisions that have been made to do nighttime work. And those appeals through the rule will go through the region director. And if that can't be settled in a fairly timely fashion, it'll go through Carlos, the executive director. One of the things that this bill does for us is it allows or makes a change that UDOT get the noise permits. Up until now, the contractors have been required to get the noise permits, but we'll now be doing some thinking up front to try to mitigate everything, get them in the design phase and not the construction phase. And so that will happen. This rule also takes into account a condition if the noise permit is not being enforced. And that also goes through a similar process through the region director and through our executive director in a really timely fashion, because those are things that will happen once the project started. Just wanted to make the commission aware of this. We're well on our way. We need to now start through the public comment period of this bill, but this is a real good thing for us, and we hope the local governments that we work with. And so we're going to be much more proactive than we have in the past. Any questions?
I can tell Mr. Chairman that we're using this rule in the southern Utah because the overpass on the Mount Drive, they're working on nights and it really expedited quite a bit of progress.
Good.
Thank you.
Randy, thank you very much. Robert?
Good morning again. I'm here to do a quick rundown of the administrative rule. I've got the number on it, I apologize. It is the rule for roadways. Yes, specifically dealing with funiculars. Well, some of the changes are. It is 920-50 roadway operation safety rule review. And as Elizabeth said, in the process of our review, we worked with the roadway safety committee and have updated this admin rule to reflect changes that have happened to the ANSI rules, and also to remove some redundant certifications we've required in the past. That certification was a manufacturer certification. So as it reads today, or as this rule would read, we would now require a designer certification and an installer's certification as part of our process. Those two changes bring our requirements more in line with those of surrounding states and brings additional consistency to the industry. So that's it. The ANSI rule that we're updating is B77.2, and it's a 2014 update. I read through it quickly. It doesn't appear to be too earth-shattering. Mostly just updating some loading and things like that.
So the only funicular is the one?
St. Regis.
The St. Regis one?
Yeah, I believe that's our only one.
Do you have any question? Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
So we read that 4 times trying to figure out what a roadway was. I think I know, but maybe you ought to explain it to see if I'm right.
Well, I'll give you my Box Elder County definition if you want. It's anything that drives like a ski lift or like the aerial tram ride lagoon. Those are all rides that fall under the jurisdiction or fall under the observance, let's say, of the roadway safety committee. That, in addition to the funicular, which is a cable-driven vehicle that runs on generally a guideway or a track. There's only one in Utah that I'm aware of that's publicly usable and falling under the jurisdiction of that committee. So really it has to deal with ski lifts and the aerial roadway, or the aerial ride lagoon. So
It's not ropes.
No, nothing to do with climbing, no elevator work.
No zip line?
No zip line.
Is a zip line considered one of these?
To fall under the jurisdiction of this committee, it has to be a driven or a power
driven as opposed to gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Were you right?
Well, I guessed, yes. I was still looking for ropes.
Yeah.
That's the term that for the cables in the industry, they refer to them as ropes.
So
Bill?
So the roping and the rodeo doesn't apply?
I guess you could have a steel.
We have a number of business items that Bill will walk us through at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So I'll be covering the items under 7. The first 6 of these are STIP Amendment number 10. So the first one is item 7A-1, and there'll be just an adjustment on this one that I'll make as we go. So we have 4 projects that had adjustments at award. The second project down, that 600, the Bangerter Highway and 600 West, the engineer looked at their estimate after award, and there was some issues still with right-of-way as well as some canal work that need to be addressed, and so we'd like to remove that one off the project, and that funding will not be taken off at this time. And so the first one, though, is the award for I-80 Castle Rock to Wyoming state line project, just over $1.2 million of NHPPIM funds that would go back to Region 2's master pin. The third one down is a funding estimate at award for SR 171 8400 West to 600 West project. It's returning just over $2.8 million of NHPP NHS funds to the Region 2's balance in their rehabilitation program. And then the last one down there is SR 9 700 West to 300 West in Hurricane. Just over $600,000 of NHPP NHS funding, which should go to the Region 4 de-obligation pot to be reprogrammed. So we'd like to seek approval to make the funding adjustments at award for the 3 projects with the one I mentioned removed.
I move we approve the request.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the three requests with one removed from the list that we have in front of us. Second one being removed. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-2. This is a US 40 bridge preservation project. The request to add an additional $500,000 to this project. The reasons for this addition is first is for a crossover stabilization that was required. There was a lot of rain that occurred, and in order to stabilize the base, they needed to do more work than anticipated there. They went through their contingency and needed more than that as well. So $200,000 additional beyond their contingency was needed. The other was for a pavement panel transition repair. These are the panels that are just before the structure. And looking at those, they felt that now would be a good time to get in and do that work while they were with the bridge. And so the cost to repair those was $300,000. So the total cost to add to this project is $500,000. So we'd like to seek approval to add $500,000 to the US 40 bridge preservation near Jordanelle Reservoir project as detailed.
I wish we could move the rain as easy as we could move the water.
Right.
Yeah.
I move we approve the request.
Been moved and seconded that this request for additional funding be approved. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-3. This is a Region 2 and traffic and safety request. We'd like to add a new project to the STIP. It's a 5300 South Commerce Drive signal upgrade project. This would be to reduce weaving and congestion in this area. There's enough right-of-way there to add an additional through lane that would feed to the I-15 southbound on-ramp, left turn lane. The engineer's estimate for this is $600,000, and these funds are available in the Highway Safety Improvement Program. I've got a location map for that.
Is this near the Intermountain Medical Center complex?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't know where that's located.
Lisa Wilson's here.
Yes.
Here's the map. Here's the map.
Yeah, here's the map.
Lisa, is this near that Intermountain Healthcare facility?
I believe it is between
Well,
there and I-15. I'm not exactly sure. of the-
On the map, it has Intermountain Drive.
Right.
Isn't that where it is?
Yeah. So this is in conjunction with Salt Lake County. They had concerns about the congestion there.
Yes.
Boy, and the signal will take care of it. I'm out there, I mean, they have a Costco, there's a huge Intermountain, it's a tremendously traveled.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement in that area, a lot of growth, and there's weaving traffic coming in and out of there that we're trying to avoid.
One of the weavers.
eliminate.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is, I need to be, is this appropriate for me to ask a question?
Please, absolutely.
Will this take care of it though, or will it just alleviate it for a while?
Hopefully it will take care of it. With all the growth going on out there in Murray, we may have to come back and do some adjustments.
Okay.
They have some big developments going on in the area that long term maybe not.
But at least an immediate need
Well, no, there's
is
a
very
need.
present, yes.
I hope I made that clear. So I'm happy to move that, do this. Thank you.
I received a motion and a second that this project be added to the STIP. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Did we vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, that one is approved. We'll add that to the STIP. No, just.
Okay, next item is under tab 7A-4. These are 4 new asset management projects that Region 4 would like to add. The first one is a culvert program. This project would add 8 to 10 culverts throughout the region, including one on I-70 near Richfield. The request for that is $500,000. The second one is the I-15 flexible delineators from mile point 10 to 62. This project would install flexible delineators on I-15 between St. George and Cedar City.
Tell me what a flexible delineator is.
I experienced these personally, actually.
Okay, that's from your personal experience. Help me out.
I was coming home from school when I was in college and it was raining and they had one of these on the off-ramp and I was going faster than I should and I lost traction and I went and hit it and it went down underneath my car, and when I went past it, it came back up. So that's what these do.
Okay.
So they're flexible. Nothing happens to the car.
So the flexibility is that if you smash them, they don't break.
They pop right back up.
They pop back up.
Yep.
They don't cause damage to your car too.
Yes, no damage to the car. So it
It
just
eliminates a lot of maintenance work going out there and
reestablishing, having to redo everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Metal ones, we had an activity years ago, straightened delineator posts. And you'll see the guys out there trying to bend them back into shape at times. So.
Right.
And so it helps us keep those delineators in place because there's a time lag between fixing them as well. So.
Sure.
Okay. How many of them pop back up after they've been hit by a snowplow?
Well, I have not experienced that one myself, so I don't know.
I was wondering why some of them were way out there.
So
These
sounds
aren't
like
for
it's
snow plows. We try not to hit them with our plows. These are not for snow plows.
Okay, the next project is a cattle guard replacement. This is phase 2. This is for $500,000. This would install 6 to 8 additional cattle guards within the region. And then lastly, SR 118 bridge widening over the Sevier River north of Austin. I had to look that up. I didn't know where Austin was. It's just by north
Near
of
San Antonio.
No.
Then I don't know.
Down Richmond area. I forgot the town, just Monroe. It's just north of Monroe.
It is, huh?
What this will do is the proposed project will provide a 12-foot travel lane, 5-foot shoulders, replace the parapets with a 42-inch single slope parapet, and replace HMA on the deck, upgrade guardrail, transition elements, and crash cushions, as well as the wing walls and all 4 corners of the structures. So we'd like to seek approval to add these 4 region asset management projects as detailed.
I haven't briefed on these projects, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that these 4 projects be approved. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, they'll be added.
The next item is under tab 7A-5. This is the SR9 Rockville to Zions Park project. This is an informational item. This project is being broken into 2 separate phases. The first phase will address only the overlay and shoulder widening for a portion of this project. I actually have a map of these phases too. So that will be one of the phases, and then the second phase is to reconstruct the pavement, improve drainage, and improve enhancement, mobility, and safety in Springdale itself. And that would be that phase. So the scope of work on both these projects remains the same as if it was the single project, just the phasing of it needs to be separated out so we can do them both at separate times. Any questions on this?
Rick Torgerson is here if you have any questions on this.
Will the project be a little bit more expensive considering the storms we've had this week down there?
The storms for us just put a lot of mud on the road in Springdale. The rock itself in Zions is up prior to the tunnel, so it was not on the state road, so it's up on the side of the park.
It fell on
We
the
just had,
federal lane.
the federal road. So we just had a lot of mud that came down. Our crews were in there yesterday trying to clean up all the mud and debris and that stuff. We didn't have anything large come down at all. We've been working a lot with the town of Springdale just to try to figure out what the dynamics is in Springdale itself. You know, you've heard them talk about the additional visitation that's coming. They think they may get close to 4 million visitors this year, where, you know, that's quite an increase over the last 5 years. The Mighty Five campaign has brought a lot more visitation to that area. So during this project, we had planned on building the whole thing all at once, getting in there and getting out, and when we really got into the community of Springdale itself and started looking at several of the issues there, we felt like we need to spend some more time to do what's right in Springdale while we're there. So, for instance, we have like 4-foot sidewalks in Springdale. We sent a group of traffic folks down there over Memorial Day, and we had seen over 3,500 pedestrians in about a 16-hour period there. At times where there's 300 or 400 pedestrians an hour walking to the park in Springdale, and the Office of Tourism has also hired a international expert, Roger Brooks, who came down and done quite a bit of branding type work and doing some reviews of communities that have this large visitation. And his main comment was, as many pedestrians you have there and you're only providing 4-foot sidewalks, it's not enough. You should be looking at 10-foot sidewalks in a town like Springdale for the amount of pedestrian uses there. So with those type of things, and you know, parking's an issue, bikes are an issue, you know, there's a lot of work that we got to do, and so we feel like it's appropriate to separate this project into two and spend the time and do what's right in Springdale while we're there with, you know, active transportation and bicycles and everything else over there. The mayor and the National Park has been very cooperative with us, and I think we're getting to a very good scope of work, but we're going to separate this project, do the piece that's just widening, that's not downtown, only to Rockville and the overlay, you know, probably it'll be probably around February through March sometime. This fall, maybe actually a little sooner than that, maybe in November, and then the rest of them will be delayed a year. And you know, we could, based on the scope of work, need additional funding for that Springdale project, but that would come back to you guys once we kind of get that full scope of work identified.
So the smaller of the two pieces will be delayed.
It's the most complicated of the two pieces.
But, and that may require a little additional funding once you really do the planning.
Exactly.
For it. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about the historic culverts in Rockville?
In Rockville, we're not touching any of those historic culverts in Rockville.
Okay,
in Springdale, that's one of the issues that came up, is they have those old rock line ditches.
Right.
To do the 10-foot sidewalks, those are rock lines, we don't have enough width, so those rock line ditches we've got a memorandum of granted between us and SHPO and the city.
Explain SHPO.
State Historic Preservation Society. They kind of look at all those historic features in towns. So we've got an agreement with them that I think is very, very good, a very good balance, to where some of these rock line ditches that are not needed for the sidewalk or the roadway surface, we'll leave them in place and maybe just fill them with a decorative rock so that we don't change the feature there. Other places where we need that width, we're allowed to remove those, and along the sidewalk put a little colored strip that signifies where those rock line ditches were at. So we're working real close with SHPO and the town to keep the culture and the history in Springdale, but still try to meet the demands of the future.
Thank you.
Okay.
But like I said, that was for information only, but that's
Yeah,
where we're headed with that
right.
job, but
Right.
we're doing a lot of work with them, and if we need additional funding, we'll come back, but we'll know that later.
All right, thank you, thank you, Rick.
Yeah. I know, not Shanghai.
Okay, next.
Yeah, it just, Rick, just as kind of a point, Megan mentioned the point that you know, you're all right there.
Yeah.
Last Saturday, I happened to be in Shanghai, China. I just got back Wednesday night. And I went out to the Bund. I don't know if you know the Bund. It's the walkway along the river in Shanghai. And up Nanjing Walking Street. There were more people out there Saturday night than live in the state of Utah. So when you talk about 350 an hour, I'm saying, holy smoke.
It's all relative, right?
It's all very relative, but then there are 20 million people who live in Shanghai as well, so it's kind of interesting. I'm sorry, I just had to chuckle when I picture 350 people an hour walking down the sidewalk and the need for 10-foot sidewalks. But that's all right.
How big are the sidewalks there?
The sidewalk there is about It varies between 20 and 30 meters wide along the boom. Along the street, Nanjing Walking Street is just that. They've closed the street. And so the street itself is probably 30 or 40 meters wide. And it was shoulder to shoulder, cheek to jowl. I mean, it was, it was an amazing experience. Never seen it quite that crowded before in Shanghai. But it was fun. The reason being is because it was the 7th of July for them. It's the 7th day of the 7th month after their Lunar New Year. And that was a particular weekend that drew out the crowds. It was a holiday weekend, but it was amazing. Sorry for that commercial about Shanghai.
Okay, so our next item is 7A-6. This also is an informational item.
No, that's information.
That was information only.
Because
We've already approved the
splitting the
project.
project, yeah.
And we're just splitting that
Yeah,
project
scope and
into
funding
two
stays
pieces.
the same. This is an informational item as well. The retained federal right-of-way program has just over 2.6 million in balance. This funding is available from selling the remaining pieces of excess properties that were used to purchase using federal funds on various federal projects. The I-15 South Davis Operational Upgrades Project had currently in excess current expenditures that these funds could be used on. So we're applying these funds to those expenditures, and in return we're taking off an equal amount of state TIF money that we will bring back and reprogram later. So right now it's just informational that we're going to make that funding trade, but the dollar amounts are staying the same on the project. We'll be bringing the TIF money back in the program. Yeah. So just let you know that we did that on that project with those funds.
Any questions on that? Thank you, Bill.
Next item is 7B. Okay, the Federal Recreational Trails Program originally was authorized by Congress in 1991 as part of the ICE-T Act. This act established the funding for Recreational Trails Trust Fund. These grants are available for non-motorized as well as motorized trails projects. This program has continued through the current authorization. The projects are selected and administered through the Utah State Parks Recreational Division. Chris Haller is one that heads that up. He's here today. He can possibly answer any questions if you have any on those. We have a list of projects that come out of that. So we have the non-motorized list as well as the motorized list. You know, these are fine print, but they're readable if you go online. The total is just under 1.5 million of recreational trails funds money, but it's important to point out that the local or other contributions that come to these bring it almost 4 to 1 on those funding. So it's a good
almost 4.3 million in total.
And so, any questions on that? I don't know if you'd like Chris to come up and chat a bit on the program, or.
Do you have any questions?
That first batch, they're all non-motorized, and the next bunch are motorized. There's a designation between the green and the...
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Thank you. Chris did make the trip, and if it would be okay with the commission for maybe to spend a few minutes talking about the process he uses to come up with these projects. I think the commission might be interested in that. It's a very inclusive process that they use. Sorry, Chris.
Thank you, Director, Chair, Commissioners, Representative Chu, and staff from Utah Department of Transportation. I'm Chris Haller, Utah Division of Parks and Recreation. I wear two hats, like a lot of state employees. I'm the Off-Highway Vehicle Program Coordinator, and then I'm also the Recreational Trails Grant Administrator, working cooperatively with UDOT and also Federal Highway. And thanks again. Just wanted to point out maybe some amazing facts about your Recreational Trails Program grant. 21 counties out of the 29 will receive some form of improvement in their recreational trails within their counties. I think it's an amazing thing that local counties take advantage of these grants. And as was alluded to, our advisory council, which is comprised of both motorized and non-motorized citizens, make these recommendations that have been brought to you today. So this is not me in a glass silo saying, hey, push this one. These are coming from the grassroots level, which I believe is very, very important and valuable to the process. A couple other things, just a little more than 2,900 miles of trails will be impacted or receive funding in regards to that. Kind of a unique thing, you know, every year we see something new. This year the trend has been more winter type of activities associated with these. So we're funding 40 grants out of over 60 applications that we received. So just a few little wrinkles and nuances, and greatly appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to you for today.
How does Utah compare to other states with this type of?
Well, it's I think I'm partial. We do a very, very good job to let you know in regards to other states, because it's based upon a federal fuel tax surcharge. For example, say a state of New York may receive more funding than what Utah does. Our average hovers somewhere right around 1.3 to 1.5. This year, our council, I believe that we are going to have about $106 left available on the books, which is something I'm very proud of, that the council has decided. Yeah, we are. We're putting it back on the ground, which I believe is, and the council believes is very, very important.
Is there a conscious effort to spread this around the state? You're mentioning 21 of 29 counties. Is there a conscious effort, or is it simply that there are meritorious requests from the counties that allowed you to make that kind of a broad distribution?
Both, actually, and the council tries to do a very, very good job of placing funding in areas of importance based upon the applications that we receive. And so in the off season, so to speak, when we're outside the application, we try to reach out to those counties that may have viable projects that we hear either through the local county government associations or as they reach back out to us. And so I believe it's a mutual benefit across the board. So if they don't apply, we obviously, I think they got a pretty good shot. If you approve these, it seems that actually 2/3 of the grants will get funded. And the council does a very, very good job of finding out those particular grants that come in and do a fabulous job of articulating and defining which grants are very, very important to fund.
Do we have any kind of record of the usage of these trails over time? I mean, we know traffic counts on roadways. It might be a little more difficult to figure out how many people are on these trails. But is there an attempt to find out how these trails are utilized?
It's a very good question, and actually a couple of these grants this year are actually study grants to take into account for the purchase of said type of traffic counters that are trail manufactured towards. And so they're trying to collect data, maybe taking a page out of UDOT's book, trying to collect data first, and then going back in and then identifying where they should place that infrastructure. Exactly. Yes, sir.
Any further questions? Please, Gail.
A couple of questions. As I look at the list, several of these appear to be on public lands.
A high percentage of them are, yes, sir.
Forest Service.
Yes, sir.
What's the arrangement with the federal government, the Forest Service, about trails? Do they provide the trail, and this money enhance it? I'd like to understand how we're spending state money on federal lands.
Well, it's
the federal government that broke.
Well, It's actually federal, it's federal grant funding from Federal Highway
I see.
Administration. And so a lot of the applications are from public land agencies, the BLM Forest Service. We also, this year, we saw a downward trend from nonprofit groups, so nonprofits can also apply. And so the access is granted in the majority of these applications. All of the environmental clearances, all of the access has already been secured as part of that federal, our access to our public lands.
The money comes from the taxpayer to the federal government, back to the state to spend on federal lands.
To a small degree, and then also county-owned right-of-ways as well.
Second question.
Yes, sir.
In the back of my mind, there used to be, maybe there still is, some kind of a licensing earmark for trails for like four-wheelers, snowmobiles. Do we collect that still?
We do. That's the program I oversee, and it's $18 for an off-highway vehicle. We have a staggered system. It's $22 for a snowmobile, and so the snowmobile fee goes directly back into the grooming portion of our snowmobile trails, along with snow removal that we contract out with UDOT, and then we also utilize the dirt transportation system around the state, which we have over 75,000 miles of trails. That's a dirt transportation system. So that $18 goes back on the ground to help fund restrooms, maps, trail improvements, signage, etc.
I guess a lot of that gets spent on Forest Service, BLM land as well.
Yes, it does, not a lot of it. We are trying our best to work very, very closely with the counties. We have some very unique and great opportunities. We're working with Iron County, we work with Garfield County, and in order to enhance a motorized dirt transportation system around the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Nagi,
Chris,
please.
what is the composition of your council? Is it appointed, elected officials, public? Who are they?
Yeah, we have, so what we have out of the 22 members, 10 of them come from the non-motorized, or known as the Recreational Trails Advisory Council, which is more non-motorized. They're made up of hiking, equestrian, bicycle, at-large reps, county association, along with cities of league and towns also has a representative on it. And on the motorized side, we have a snowmobile rep, off-highway motorcycle, several at-large, and ATV safety. So we have quite the diversity of representatives.
And they all have a voter rights, or they just advise?
What they do is they review the council, they review the applications that are received. We have a scoring criteria sheet that we make available for the applicants, and it's on our website, so we try to be very transparent. And then the council utilizes that criteria or that ranking sheet individually, and then they come together collectively and say, well, I have a discrepancy. Maybe I like this one to get 3 points, and another person can say, well, I didn't see this because I think it's only worth 1 point, and then it's a discussion.
So who makes the final decision on where to spend the money?
You.
Not
you alone, but others up here.
But that council prepared this list that is before us.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Yeah, that comes from their recommendation, or their scoring mechanism.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you for taking the time to be here and for that explanation. It's very helpful to us to understand that. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome, and thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
You guys a great job.
So we'd like to seek approval to add the 2017 Recreational Trails Program to the 2016-2021 STIP.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this be added to the STIP. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, speaking of the STIP, as the next item. So the
The draft 2017-2022 STIP has been prepared, summarized, reflected the guidance and suggestions that we had at from region priorities and at the April workshop. You know, this has been, we put it out to public comment in May, and it's been out there since then. We've got a list of public comments that you received, be able to attach there. I'll tell you one that was interesting for me. I'll just tell you my own experience on it. We had one that came directly to us that was through the email site. And in the response back, the reason I'm sharing it because I want to tell you their response back to me and why this is important is the person's response back to me was, "Thank you so much. You just made my day. I'm so grateful that my idea is being considered." So comments are important as we get these comments back. So we've also included the comments that we received back from the tips from the MPOs as well. Each of these comments that we get back, we respond or forward them to the right group to handle those, and that's been done as well. So we're to the point now to where we'd like to seek approval to send the draft STIP to FHWA and FDA for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the 2017-2022 STIP be forwarded to FHWA and FDA for their review and approval. Is there any further discussion? I'd like to ask this question. Did any of the comments, and there are numerous comments there that we have received, did any of those comments prompt us to make changes to the STIP in any way?
Not that I'm aware of any changes to the STIP from those comments. I think it will direct the discussion further on, but in the current draft STIP that's moving forward, no.
Okay. All right. Do we have a total number, Bob, of the comments that we got back?
So far, what we've received back is around 93 at this point.
Okay.
But of course, even though we have a somewhat formalized comment period, we're always taking comments.
Right.
So you know, even today when we hear folks come to the podium and have comments, I capture those and try to distribute
and
those
add
to the
those.
regions.
Okay. Is that an increase over previous years, the number of responses?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Why are we getting an increase?
The majority of these comments have come through Wasatch Front. Wasatch Front this year implemented an interactive map system in their tip, and that seems to be how they got a lot of their comments. It's been out there. You know, we also held a couple of open houses where we'd have folks that would come in and drop off some comments or at least just discuss things. And then we also had a session where we had an interactive online, which my son called in just to make sure that the system worked, but that was only the one. So we are we're looking at several types of ways to communicate with the public, and this interactive map seems to have been a real groundswell.
So the technology and the interactive things that we're implementing seem to provide the public additional ways and ease of responding to the STIP that's put out there, rather than having to write a letter or go to a meeting or something like that. It's something they can do right online.
The other thing that we noticed with the interactive map piece is that someone will be there and they'll be wondering, seeing how things affect their entity around where they live.
Right. And
then they'll talk to their neighbors, and their neighbors will go on. So what we find, as well as we get some clusters of things where, for instance, Tooele, access from Tooele into Salt Lake County, we had a number of those comments. Certainly we were out there and talked about a secondary connection on 201 as a possibility. There were a number of those that came out in the comment period as well.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Comments?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
I read most of these comments. It's all concerned about another alternate way beside I-80, East-West corridor. Large number of people just consider what it's going to be, when it's going to be. So that's just a comment.
Right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll move this stick forward then for review and approval.
For federal highways.
For federal
FTA.
highways and FTA.
And we hope to have that approved by October 1 so we can spend money.
So we can actually do it. Okay.
Okay, last item is 7D. This is an informational item regarding the Vineyard SIB loan. A resolution was passed by the Board of Directors of the Redevelopment Agency of the Town of Vineyard. That motion was to reduce the amount of the SIB loan that was needed from $16.15 million down to $14.481 million. All other terms remain the same as approved by the Commission. The first required principal payment on this loan will be May 1st of 2017. I've attached a revised amortization chart with that new principal amount that they've have changed to. So we thought you should be aware of that change. So what this does also is leaves an additional balance in the SIB right now, which is available to use.
Any comments or questions about this reduction in the SIB from Vineyard? It was nice that Vineyard was able to conclude that negotiation successfully and with reduced amounts of funding. It's been a long.
That's a really big deal what they've been able to do.
Well, it's been, what, 3 years ago that we originally approved the 16 million?
I think it was over in Vernal.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Been quite a while.
So the interest is the same now?
Yes.
Okay.
Just the reduction in the principal.
Okay.
Okay.
Bill, I hate to put you on the spot offhand. Do you remember what the remaining balance is in the SIB?
Well, that there, about $2 million is what I'm thinking right now is what we have.
Okay.
Yeah, with the addition of the 1.7? Because about 1.7 comes back, or 1.6.
We had spent it all out a couple months ago, and so with this, and I'd have to look at what payments have come in since then, but these are on an annual basis, so I don't know if any have come in, so there's going to be about $2 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have some requests now for corridor preservation funds. Randy, you're going to take care of that one this month?
Yes.
Diane, welcome.
Well, before you in your packet, you have the Marta Del Rey Corridor Preservation summary sheet that talks about the fund balance. It's about $14.2 million. You can see the funds that are obligated but not yet dispersed, which are $10.9 million. So those are all in process right now. I want to draw your attention to if you look under the actual projects that are actually underway, you can see the second project down, which is the Bangerter Property Reserve Incorporated. And I want to talk about that project first because this action is to de-obligate that money. When the Commission acted in January of 2015, they had approved that $1.25 million to buy that parcel from PRI.
Can I stop you? Can I just... I didn't have this in mind. Do you guys have this?
Yes.
Do you have
Yes,
the
I
balance?
have
Meg doesn't.
It's okay.
Okay.
Well, it's online. I have it here.
It's
I
not-
don't have it in the packet.
I don't have it online either, so...
I don't have it.
So I guess maybe Randy, you could summarize where we are?
Sure.
I just want to make sure the commissioners have that.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I think she's going to bring it, here it is right here, okay.
So you can see where we entered with a fund balance of $13.9 million. There was revenue of $477,000 with some property purchase expenses of $192,000, which brings us to a balance of $14.2 million. You can see as of the 12th day of July. The list that we were talking about of funds obligated but that are not yet dispersed are this list. And one of the projects I want to talk about is the Bangerter Property Reserve second project down, which is $1.25 million. So why don't we note that for just 1 second, and I'll come back to that. As we go down through this list, you can see that total list comprises $10.9 million of, and you can see on the very right side where those projects are in closing, there have been offers, they're in negotiation, there are different phases of property purchases which take just a little bit of time, and so they don't, just because we've, it's been approved, they're not dispersed yet. So we have a fund balance of $3.358 million. That number could, well, let's just go down to the next piece. Then we have an application pending, which I'll talk about in a little bit of detail on Gentile Street, which would take $126,000 of that. That balance also included in that is that $1.25 million that could come back to the fund if the commission decides to deobligate that money. So that sheet's got a lot of information. I think it's a wonderful sheet. Also keeps us on our toes to make sure those things are happening. Let's jump down to the deobligation request really quick. What happened on this project was the commission deobligated or obligated the money in January 23rd of 2015 to purchase this property from PRI. An odd thing happened in the fact that while we were in the process of purchasing this property, PRI got an offer from a developer and sold it. So it no longer needed to, or we no longer need to expend that $1.25 million. And so that's a positive thing. So that's why we're asking to deobligate that money. Now the irony of it all is this project is on the 114th South Bangerter Interchange project, which is now active. And so that money will come directly out of, we still need to buy that property. That money was allocated, but it will come right out of the project fund. And so it's not a total savings, but it's definitely coming out of a different pot of current project funds. So there was quite a bit happened since the commission obligated that money, and so now we're just back to deobligate that money.
Apparently we'll pay more for it now.
I don't know about that, Commissioner, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the answer to that is yes.
But we don't want to establish that as a benchmark.
So the motion to approve? I do so.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we deobligate the $1.25 million to property reserve that we had approved in January of last year. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll recover that $1 million and spend it elsewhere.
All right. We also have a quarter preservation acquisition request that's from Wells Fargo Bank on Gentile Street in Layton, and I'm hoping you have that in your map in your packet that looks like this. You can see that we've purchased the parcels that are in blue. The only parcel that we haven't purchased yet is the one from Wells Fargo, and that's for some street widening that's going to happen there. There's a lot of development that's going on to the south of there, and so there's some widening that needs to be done on Gentile Street, and so that's why we're here today to request the $126,500 for that purchase of that property to Wells Fargo.
So was that property not available until now? When we just bought it?
You know, Commissioner, I'm not sure why it wasn't. I know there's been some negotiations, so I think it's just taken a little longer.
Diane, do you have the question is, was this property not available before?
When I bought the other one?
Yes.
It's actually got a different owner. So Wells Fargo owns this one and it's in receivership with First Security Bank. So it wasn't available.
Because of that legal requirement, it was not available for purchase previously.
And now the attorney is calling us saying they're ready. Winco wants to go in the center of this subdivision. So now everybody's willing to sell. And I'm in closing on the other property.
Thank you. Yes, motion to approve.
Second. Been moved and seconded that we move ahead with this property acquisition. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. You have the next item as well, I think, a property exchange.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you, there's the map. I'm gonna let Heather take care of it, where everything is. And so. What I'm handing out to you is when I reviewed this project, there was a map of this in your packet that looks like this. But I even lived down here and I didn't know where that was, and so I had them blow this up. And so you can see a little higher level, and so that's the map that's being handed out right now. You can see where this project is. UDOT is currently in the process of constructing the 6th West interchange on Bangerter Highway. And with that, it comes the construction of the road of 13490 South Street. And this is where this is. So this is a property trade. And probably the best way to look at this, if you look at the maps, UDOT needs to purchase the piece in blue, which is the 3,910 square feet. There's a developer out there who is Draper West Retail, and they want to buy the orange from us. You can see the orange is considerably more. At 1,000, let's see. Well, I'm not going to add those up in my head because that would.
We got 13,500.
Wouldn't be good. Yeah, so I'll go back to this sheet. So 13,731. So thank you, Commissioner, for that math. Anyway, so what's ended up happening is this is a good thing for us to go ahead and trade this property. The property in the orange we don't need. The property in the blue we do need. There's a current appraisal that was done back in December of 2015 for $14.65 a square foot. Obviously, since the orange is much bigger than the blue, the developer is willing to pay whatever the appraised price is. So we're updating the appraisal right now from that $14.65. So we don't have a current appraisal. We're assuming it's going to be a little bit more than that, but that's in process. But what we'd like to do, based on that new appraisal, like approval to go ahead and make that trade and sell that surplus property.
Second. Been moved and seconded that we approve this property exchange with boot, I guess is the way they say that, right?
To boot.
Is there any further question or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll
Thank you.
Proceed with that exchange. The item number 10 on our agenda was one that we had discussed yesterday briefly in our staff update meeting. We have proposed that the commission create a rule that allows us to have a consent agenda item included in our agenda as we move forward. What we need to do today, after our discussion yesterday, is to seek commission approval that we move ahead with the rulemaking and proposing, and then we'll come back with a proposed rule and rulemaking process that would be approved by the commission at a later date.
So make a motion to do that, Mr. Chairman.
I second.
Been moved and seconded that we move forward in creating a rule that would be considered by the commission for the implementation of a consent agenda item. Is there any further discussion?
No, and you alluded to it. We talked about this for a couple of hours yesterday.
We did, and we will certainly talk about it some more because there are some restrictions that we will want to be sure that we adhere to and honor. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll move ahead with that then. Finally, on our agenda are the informational items, the report from the commissioners on their committee assignments. Nagi, let's start over there with you.
We didn't have a DTAC meeting in July. They had an office last meeting in UDOT. For the CRB had meeting, we had 15 projects came before the CRB board, and they approved and advanced it to the funding. That's my report.
All right, thank you.
My committee did not meet, though. I do have something to bring up about committees and other business. Because we're doing reports now, but I do have a request.
Okay, hold on to that request then. Danny?
My committee meetings are next week, both regional growth and Transcom.
Okay. Gail?
I have one highway committee meeting in September. I haven't had any since our last one.
All right, looks like we all take July off. Must have been. And we have an audit committee meeting next Tuesday. So we'll have more reports, I'm sure, to give in our next meeting. Now, Megan, you have a special item.
Yeah, not in the interest of making more work for UDOT, but I think it might be good for us to refresh. I forget what the CIB actually does. And I'm on JPAC, Danny's on UTA, audit. I think it might be good at one of the meetings just to take 5 minutes and go over what the committee actually does, that we sit on, each of them.
Would you like the department to prepare a summary for each of the commissioners?
Well, I'm ambivalent about that because I don't want to make, but it may be a paragraph. And actually why a commissioner is sitting on this. And like, especially the CIB, I really have I read the statute, but that doesn't mean I understood it at all. I just want to know, how you do the projects, how it's allocated, things like that. I think that would be very helpful. Is that too much?
No, it's not.
Were you pointing Nathan?
No, I was pointing at Elizabeth, who knew exactly what was coming at her. She is anticipated, and she,
Elizabeth, could you prepare that kind of a
yes, we will.
Refresher for all of us?
Yeah, and
on the committee.
And what we'll do is we will provide that, Mr. Chair, to of course yourself and to each of the committee members ahead of time, so that you can see that and ask any questions.
And, I mean, I'm on JPAC, and people are like, well, what is that?
Yeah, what is that, and what does it do?
I just think it would be helpful.
That's a good point. Always good refresher, just like we had the open meetings refresher yesterday. Good point. Thank you, Megan. We can certainly do that. Are there any other comments or questions that need to come before the commission? Carlos, anything from you, Doc?
Maybe something, fun fact. I think the number 50 is important here today. I understand that Mr. Chairman, you will be celebrating your 50th anniversary in a couple of weeks, and that's a very significant.
Yes, and my bride is right out there.
Yes.
Smiling.
I thought mentioning that might be important, and I worked with Commissioner McConkey when I started my career at the department, but he indicated that next month it'll have been 50 years since he started his job at the department.
50 years ago this month.
This month.
Wow.
And I'm only 25.
You look great.
Well, you're kind, Carlos, to mention that.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Now, our next meeting is in September 15 and 16 at West Point. That'll be up in Region 1. Chris is all excited about that.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to top the Navajo tacos, though.
Terry set a high bar.
Yeah,
I can tell you that was very well done yesterday.
We'll see. Maybe we'll just find some Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches.
That'll come close. Thank you.
Wait a minute. You promised German chocolate cobbler.
That's what you want.
Don't change the subject.
So September will be in Region 1. October will be in Region 4 down in Ephraim. And then we'll be back in Region 3 in November and Region 2 in December. Okay? I will certainly entertain a motion to hit this gavel.
I so move.
Thank you all for being here. We're adjourned.
Thank you. Oh, my.
Could I suggest, I think that's good.
Okay, good, 'cause people had asked me.